when I was around 19 years old, I started to listen to a certain niche of content. I got into a certain dark corner of the internet, now known as a red pill. And this was one of the most destructive messages that I consistently fed myself. I became an addict of this content. And it wasn't because, this content just lured me in necessarily. That was one aspect, but it's because I was already a traumatized young man. I was already an individual who was so deeply emotionally wounded. I was an individual with, a low sense of self-worth. Now, I would not have known this, or the people around me would not have known this. They would have seen me as this confident guy, smooth, suave, too cool for school, a guy who never had no problems and, would keep a face in front of people. In relationships, I was the emotionally distant guy. So I just seemed like I didn't care. But in truth, I was dealing with a lifetime of unresolved motherly, maternal issues as well as paternal issues. My father was in the house. My mother was in the house. Yet there was an emotional distance there that created emotional distance within myself. And this led me down this path of, when I first got into intimate relationships, getting into high school, then, after high school, getting into more serious relationships, I realized a pattern, at least in hindsight, was that I was always finding myself in relationships that were either very emotionally cold and distant, or I would attract an individual who was extremely attached, extremely clingy per se, and I was always running away. We were a perfect match for each other because they were looking for love and I was running from love. I was afraid to be connected. I was afraid to be vulnerable. I was afraid of dealing with what was really going on, and instead, I found this as an outlet. And so now I'm on the other side, and I feel it's my responsibility to tell the truth about what's really going on here. And, I believe this is for both, the men who might be in this or getting out of it, as well as the women who are going to deal with individuals, in this headspace, or even those who might fall into it themselves. Radical feminism is the very same as the red pill movement. It's the exact same parallel. There's a message of anti-men or anti-women. And for me, I want to eradicate that narrative. Again, I believe in healthy relationship dynamics. I believe that's the foundation of a healthy society, right? The healthy individual makes a healthy relationship, makes a healthy community. That's the only way that works. So that being said, I wanted to make sure to find a video that I could at least stand behind and something that I'll be willing to, share with people that, I support, because there's a whole lot of mess that I don't want people like diving into. So I'm not about to show those type of videos. So I'm about to get into a video by a man by the name of Chris Williamson, who has an incredible podcast I used to watch when I was still consuming content, like at a personal level. And he's basically speaking to a psychotherapist who gives his opinion on the red pill movement. I'm gonna make sure to link this video below, but let's get into it. Let's have a deep dive into this one while I sip on this lukewarm water in a tea mug.
Too many red pill alpha guru types take advantage of attachment issues to score cash from wounded men and encourage them to embrace their attachment wounds even further. It turns into a cult of people convinced their wounds are sacred truths.
Damn.
Man, I catch a lot of flack because people come in at me and say, that's not what red pill's about. And they're right. It's not.
Off the top, right there. Exactly what I said. That's the look, I didn't watch through this video beforehand. I knew that I could trust the source who was delivering the information, right? As far as right now, every week somebody's coming out with a scandal. So as far as right now, I could trust the source. But I didn't know that this man was going to get directly into exactly what I just said, which is there will be some who will come and attack and say, that's not what that is. It's like any cult or religious faction or whatever it may be, right? It's always everybody's misunderstanding it, not understanding it. Whereas, it's like, no, this is what it's presenting itself to be. So let's get into it.
It's not. Red pill is supposed to be evolutionary psychology applied to relationships so that you can be healthy and love each other, love your wife, love your husband based on biological imperatives within men and women. That's what it's supposed to be. In effect, when you become a red pill guru to make money off of these people, you say, no, dude, you're right. Women are scum. They'll never really love you. They're just there for the things you do for them. So you should just make them do good things for you and take advantage of those insecure women, have sex with them on the first date, and never call them again because screw them. That's what they're teaching. And those guys come in believing there's nothing better, and they hear that message and say, wow, they feel like I feel, but they're turning it around. I'm not the piece of crap. Everybody else is the piece of crap.
That's a huge, huge point right there. And this goes for everybody in any situation in all of life, is always projecting the blame outwardly. It's always somebody else's fault. Surely it's not me. Oh, all women are X. All men are X, right? Modern women are this. Modern men are that. As opposed to taking accountability for why it is that we are even engaging or entertaining those sorts of relationships to begin with, or who are we to begin with, right? I had to face that. I was problematic. I had to do something different, to show up in a different way in order to get a different result in my life. Simple as that.
Crap. So it's okay. They owe me. They owe me this. So they go out and start using that. And all that does is create a whole society of damaged, hurt women who go back and act exactly the same.
Yep.
And those nice guys get hurt and then start looking for the red pill community and say, man, all these terrible things have happened. It's a self-perpetuating cycle
Yep.
between men and women. And that's all it is. You don't stop it until you fix the actual problems, which is not what red pill gurus do to make money.
Well, the
They're
equivalent
there to make money off some.
the equivalent on the female side is radical feminism, right? It's
Just like I said, there's a direct correlation. And those two, I believe, are like psyops, right? I'm not going to get into the quote unquote conspiracy things of it, but, you know, there is truth to say that it profits for some companies or some organizations or some power structures in order to have us divided, right? To have us see each other as enemies. The depressed people buy more stuff. I'll leave it there and we get back into it.
right. It's
Yep,
not as
correct.
if it's not as if red pill is the only route to this. There is an equal polarity on the other side of the fence, which is, man, I've gone onto some of the Reddit threads. I can't remember what they're called. It's not women's rights. It's not r/women's rights, but it's one of those. It might be the female red pill or something like that, or the pink pill or some shit. And you go on there and you think, this is just as bad as what you see in some of the meninism, manosphere spaces.
Yeah.
It is. And you know what? It doesn't have to be. And my areas, I mean, I'm in touch with all kinds of like masculinity coaches and all the like cringeworthy names that you would have. And some of them are the best men you would ever meet who actually pull men up out of this and say, no, dude, fix your behavior. You're finding bad women because you are a bad man. And they make the men fix themselves. Women, there's some women doing the same thing on their side, trying to fix it.
Absolutely.
Until you have that fix between the balance of the sexes and get back to our biological imperatives and understand what they mean and fix them and fix the attachment, nothing's going to get better. But yeah, man, there are grifters on both sides,
Yep.
and they are happy to take advantage of those attachment issues. They will take all your money all day long and tell you that what you're feeling is normal and that you should embrace it and get worse
Facts.
so you can pay them more.
Yeah.
Man, I can see the allure of it. You know, there's the in my less gracious moments when I felt jilted or insulted or not wanted or whatever, I can see those areas of me that would become seduced by that sort of talking point. You know, you have this hurt man who feels like the world has done him wrong, and it's much easier to create a conspiracy around an entire gender that this is women at large, as opposed to maybe you just chose a shitty one, man, or maybe you just rolled a bad hand. Maybe it was unfortunate luck or poor timing, or maybe the particular combination of circumstances, a little bit of you and a lot of them, or a lot of them and a little whatever.
Now, I'm going to have to disagree with that right there. And it's not, again, to say it's a completely off base, and it's not to say that everybody can't have their own opinion, but what I've come to notice, come to realize, come to know, after coaching a multitude of individuals myself, and a comprehensive life experience, is that we are always at the core of it. This isn't a point of blame. It's just to say that when we have that unresolved trauma, we're going to perpetuate those very same cycles. There's going to be a blueprint, right? And I get what he's doing because he has, also a more mainstream platform. So he wants to make it an open-ended type of thing, right? Not to like, subvert that personal accountability or responsibility. But again, I just want to stop right there to say For me, not necessarily that. And you may disagree as well, right? Sometimes you may see it as like it was all them. And for me, I say it's all them when it comes to them, and it's all us when it comes to us. The reason why I stay in a certain relationship dynamic, why I overlook those red flags, I don't look at certain indicators. We may say somebody showed up and they lied the whole time, but a person's always going to give themselves away. And we have an instinct, we have a gut feeling that told us. And if you go in the history of any relationship, you will see things that happened, see things that you saw before that you were willing to bypass because this was familiarity for you, or because it felt like a level of, safety or quote unquote security for you, or because, you wanted what you wanted. Like you were so desperate, you were more desperate for a relationship than you were to step away from something that may just not be the thing that's going to serve your highest good or anybody's highest good. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's get back into it.
That caused a bad situation to come out of it. And for some reason, it's more comforting to believe that this is a pandemic at large that only affects one half of the population.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos.
Girl.
Wondering why you can't find the motivation to
I forgot about that. There's going to be commercials.
It's, and both sides say it. Both sides, feminists say every man is a potential rapist, and men say every woman is a potential divorce rapist. She'll take all your money. Both sides do it, and there's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of political power in it. Mm-hmm. Both political parties are deeply invested in these things. Man, whole nations are turning on these ideas. It's not just the internet. It's the world right now.
Yeah, there's meme culture is so fucking smart, man. I'm sure that you'll have seen this one. It's these two dudes, these two black illustrations of guys with beards, and it says, "A woman hurt me and I never made up about it. We should call ourselves alpha males," and then they just walk away. And you think, man, like the main problem that I have with the red pill space is that almost none of the guys that are in that space look to me like the alpha males that I would want to follow. None of them embody the sort of actual, genuine integrity, trustworthiness, honor, sensitivity, genuine masculinity. None of the guys embody that. It's just...
That's a bar right there. How many of these sorts of individuals are somebody who, not a young boy, right? Or a boy or a man child, because there's a lot for those type of individuals. If you're somebody who all you need to see is somebody driving a Bugatti, right? Driving a Lambo or something like that. Again, I'm not anti any of that. I'm just saying if that's what's your indicator, or somebody who's, sleeping with as many women as possible, if that is the indicator to you that, oh, this is a man, those are the immature individuals. For a true man, somebody who has any type of substance of value, the things that are going to be appreciated, honored, and held at the highest value are going to be character, integrity, honor, right? An ability to show up in the world in an authentic way. These are virtues of masculinity. These are virtues of a true man. And, if you're on the other side of that, trying to figure out what does an actual man look like, maybe you never had a representation, you're going to know when you see it. You might not even like it, because you might still be in a very, toxic space within yourself where, you can't even be in relationship with that type of individual yet, but you will recognize it. You will know it when you see it. You will feel it when you see it. And it feels different. It doesn't feel like $100,000 chain. It doesn't feel like anything a man can buy. It feels like something deeper. It is the very essence and the core of the individual.
Guys embody that. It's just, I don't know. It's the equivalent of a girl replacing beauty with a boob job and lip fillers. It's all it's all front, no substance. Does that make sense?
Very much, absolutely. Because the understanding red pill, it's really just evolutionary psychology that's applied. That's all it is. Taking it on and saying, "I am a red pill man," means you have got stuck there. If you get out of a bad relationship, you should learn evolutionary psychology about what women actually biologically want from you and about attachment. You should learn those things. Red pill is right now the only place where men can speak these old truths that fathers would have said to their sons, like, "Well, son, let me tell you about women." Red pill is the only area men can go to hear that now, because we don't have relationships with our fathers or grandfathers or uncles anymore. We don't have male-only spaces. Red pill is the only area where they can do that. So they go there and they learn these things. And the men who are good and healthy, I shouldn't say good people, but they're healthy, they move on. They learn it, and then they move on into something else. They move into their church system, or they move into an honor culture with an honor tribe online. They move into masculinity groups instead of red pill groups. They move into married men support groups where they're building each other up, good ones. They move into fraternities and things like, and programs like that. They don't get stuck and say, oh, I'm a red pill man. When you do that, that means you really are stuck and you really need to move out of that group. It's a good on-ramp, but it's not the highway.
So yeah, I'm about to stop it right here because otherwise, you know me, I could get into it. We're gonna make this a 2-hour video by the end. And maybe I might end up doing some that are like that. But you know, this basically kind of sums up the point that I was truly getting to is, again, what he's speaking of right there is when it becomes an identity. And that's with anything, right? And I even caught myself when it, comes to spirituality, etc. It's like once it becomes a label, and the label becomes more important than what that actually means, like how am I living? How am I showing up in the world? That's when it becomes problematic, right? And that's what happens within these sorts of spaces that, pit us against each other, where you take a stance. And mind you, this is a stance that was created for you. It's like in the government, they give us these names. We didn't choose the name people of color. We didn't choose the name. I remember I saw this this breakdown of like what the Black American experience and what they have been called by the leftist government, in essence, the ones who are trying to mobilize them since maybe Lyndon Baines Johnson time, right? So, you had the Negro, then you had the colored, then you had the black, then you had the African American, now you got the people of color. That was done intentionally. That was done to mobilize a group of people, which means to get them to feel as if they were one community, to think as one, to move as one. And it happened. It was the exact case. You had 90% of the population voting in the very same way. There's no other phenomenon where you see that besides when a people are literally glued together to be a groupthink. And that's what happens within these spaces. It's happening online everywhere, where you just you have one kind of stream of thought happening within this siloed group of individuals. And it's happening for men, and it's happening for women, and it's happening for those who identify outside of those two. But instead, I believe that we need to get to a place in order for us to truly heal at an individual level and to heal our communities and to get to a place where we're having these healthy relationship dynamics, where we're building families up again. This matters because that then builds other healthy humans. You get what I'm saying? You can't have a healthy baby being raised in a toxic environment. That child is going to become a product of that environment, and now they're going to have to go through, a healing module, healing process. We need to break these generational curses. We need to break these down all the way.